and welcome once again to this week's Fixing Football podcast. I'm your host, Martin Naylor, and this week, as always, joined by Luke Foley and Liam O'Meara, and once again joining us was my brother Scott Naylor. This week, we wanted to focus on our predictions for the whole season. We wanted to let the dust settle on the transfer window and international friendlies and squads being picked and Champions Leagues being drawn, and make sure all the teams were settled before we give a real good guess as to what we think is going to happen this season. So that's why we was putting this off and we didn't do it right at the beginning. But so hopefully you'll crack on and enjoy what we've put together. Thank you everyone who submitted your predictions as well on Twitter and Instagram and wherever else you've been following. It's much appreciated. We didn't actually manage to cover that bit this week. We ran out of time, but we are going to be featuring a section soon where we do come up with we do feature the comments, and we will be getting back to them next week, so stay tuned. Thank you everyone who's been listening so far. It's really appreciated. We're all really enjoying doing this and putting it together, and we hope we can continue. So please do like and share and subscribe and follow and all that good stuff. Like I said, it doesn't cost you anything to do, but it does really go a long way into helping us, put some meaning behind this and carry on enjoying it. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Please do share with friends and let people know what's going on. But let's just get right into it. What's going on, boys? How are we all doing?
All right, fellas.
Martin.
There's lots of voices in the room. We've got Scott Naylor back in the room. Scott, how's it going, mate?
Very well. Thanks for having me on again, guys.
So there was a big old match this weekend. Liam, how did Bolton do?
Yeah, good win. 2-1 win against Derby County, one of the promotion rivals. Played very well, actually. I've been a bit worried since the Wigan game, but we played well. They went down to 10 men, which obviously helped us. But even before then, I'd say we're in control of the game. So I think it was 1-1 at half-time, and I was more impressed with our performance than I've been for quite a while. So great win. I've got the EFL trophy tomorrow, and then we're in the international break as well. So all looking pretty good.
That is right as well. Listen, I want to come back to Bolton because it's been a minute since we've had an update on things since the whole transfer window's finished and we're coming to a little bit of a pause in the season. Luke, if I remember rightly, there was another big match this weekend. So can you remember what happened? Just please refresh my memory and let's just go over that for a sec.
Are you talking about the match between Ineos and Jumbo Visma and Tour de Britain cycle race?
No one's talking about that.
Oh, okay. I don't know what you're on about then.
No, it is. Right, Liam. Liam, let me just tell you what happened this weekend. Sunday, 4:30 p.m. The country's finest footballing establishment, Arsenal, take on lowly, crooked, rotten Manchester United in a clash of the old heads. And as expected, in fact, as Luke predicted correctly, Arsenal ran out 3-1 winners. You watched it, didn't you?
I did watch it, yes.
Go on. Luke, tell me your thoughts, please.
Unless Lee wants to go first. I can finish on my thoughts.
No, please, Luke. No,
it's on you, mate.
Yeah, it was deflating massively. I think, I hate to say it, I think Arteta out-tacticked Ten Hag. I think you let us long spaces through the game to have United possession where we're playing out the back, but not actually do anything because obviously the ball's going up to Martial. Martial would then either lose it or then knock it back to the centre-back. It seemed like you was letting us have the ball for a bit and then you get the ball, counter-attack, and nearly most of the time it was a chance, either a goal-scoring chance. Saka could have put one away. I think once we brought on Højlund, it changed a bit. I think the last 10, 15 minutes, it was a bit of a worry, and we got that disallowed goal. The goal disallowed, but again, I think you just punished us. I think it was just a case of you being the better men on the day.
I think we were only just the better men, to be honest. My honest assessment, if that match finishes 1-1, I can't really have complaints. I think it was the slowest I've seen us play in a long, long time. And I don't know if that was tactical. I don't know if that was on purpose to let you have the ball so much. But again, like we said in our preview episode, or like I said, it's a lot of it's a bit more tinkering from Arteta. Liam, what did you think of it, mate?
I got annoyed when I was watching it because I'm sitting there thinking, I look at what Spurs have become already under Postecoglou, and what do we know? Well over a year into Ten Hag's reign, and he's still theoretically looking for the break on Rashford, which is exactly what Solskjaer's doing. And if I was a United fan, and there's been a lot of talk today about referee decisions and all that from United fans and Glazers, but I'd be looking at the manager and going, what difference are you making? So that's the first thing I took away from it. Second, I've seen a lot of praise for Onana and the distribution that he's made during the game. But for me, it depends what you want from your goalkeeper. Do you want your goalkeeper to do loads of short passes to centre-backs? Or do you want him to make saves at the near post in the 97th minute to get you a point? So I think United have got a lot of problems.
Yeah, so just on the first point you see about Rashford, I completely agree with you, Liam, to be honest. And I think we've known this since the Christmas time, that we've had no output apart from Rashford. And obviously he's delivered yesterday, but when he starts to go quiet, then we have nothing else. I think real concern should be on Bruno Fernandes. Obviously, he has these great stats, but what's he doing with it? It seems where else in the midfield, where these goals coming from? It's all kind of rested on Rashford's shoulders. But hopefully, this Højlund is going to be the new Haaland. But
it's a lot to ask of a 20-year-old. Massive price tag. Listen, Scott, you're back in Chelsea. We had an episode on Chelsea a couple of weeks ago. First of all, did you see the Arsenal United match? What did you think? And secondly, what is happening at Chelsea right now?
Okay, now that's a layered question. So I didn't get to see the game. I've been in the throes of moving, and I had no Sky, no internet access. So naturally, once I saw the Chelsea result, I'd stopped caring about football for the weekend anyway. It was all over for me. So my thoughts on that game were, I've seen very, very split opinions on, like, in terms of the result, flattering Arsenal a little bit. The Nacho's goal, was it not? It seems to be very, very tight. I think some great points were made there on some problems at Man United. I think their league position last year probably flatters a little bit, depending where they'll be this year. And I think there are a lot of problems. When it comes to Chelsea and where we are, I think we're in a very tricky position where we've given Pochettino a very difficult task of developing a lot of players all at once. Usually you have a few young kids being bled through, and they've got some veterans on the pitch able to help them out. Whereas now we're in a position where they have nobody else to turn to if Thiago Silva or Raheem Sterling isn't on the pitch. So I think we've got a similar problem.
I want to jump in because I've got a question on this. I was reading today that Chelsea were considering Maddison, but they basically they can't sign anyone over the age of 25, no matter what. I wanted to know what your thoughts were on that, because you talk about developing quite a lot of players at once there. You're turning in a player that, well, spoiler alert, I pick as best signing of the season there already. What are your thoughts on that? Turning down because he's 26, not 25.
I think if that is true, I don't know how official that source is, so I don't want to speak too heavily on it, but it sounds about right. When you look at the profile of players we've been signing, it kind of checks out. So I think if we have stuck on a player like Maddison, and again, spoiler alert, I'm probably along a similar opinion to you there, I think it's for certain key positions, such as goalkeeper, anything in that spine of the midfield, a real creative outlet. If you're relying on inexperienced players for that, it's a massive gamble. And if a player like James Maddison is available from a relegated team, particularly when we just made a lot of money from Mason Mount at the time, it seemed crazy that we didn't go for him, because he's exactly what we needed. So I think that I understand the vision. I think it's one of those things, it's a nice idea, but I don't know in practice if this is going to work out. So I think it's a bit of a crazy decision not to move somebody like Maddison just on that basis.
It's interesting. I haven't, spoiler alert again, I haven't gone that way, but it's a mad, Chelsea look like a development squad at the moment, and that is sort of the idea of it, but that's how they're playing as well. They look like an under-21 squad.
Yeah, just from my point of view as a United fan, I would kind of prefer the Chelsea kind of route where it's more predictive, kind of looking for the future instead of
The
this United.
direction. They've got a direction.
Instead of the United where it's all reactive. Everything's just, well, you've seen today with all the Sancho stuff. It's just reacting to nonsense basically, constantly. It just seems like we have no kind of forward thinking. It's just all reactive.
It's because you listen to fans. That's why United will do whatever the fans want. They've done that for years. That's why you've got Ten Hag. United wanted Pochettino, but everyone online was screaming for Ten Hag for some reason, even though they had no idea of anything about him other than he was an Ajax manager, so he must be good. But they just follow what the crowd want. United, so I wouldn't expect that to change, really.
Speaking of the crowd, Liam, I'm going to move away from Man United. I think Luke's had enough punishment for one night, but we will come back to that. How are Bolton fans feeling about the season so far? Give us your thoughts. Give us a quick early season review of what's going on. Because I want to keep touch on Bolton. Bolton, they're our home club. In fact, 3/4 of this podcast don't support Bolton, but they are our home team. So I think it's right that we keep base on them.
I predicted that we'd be in the top 2, and if you look at the table now, we are in the top 2, so can't really argue with that. I think the Wigan game did us a lot of damage. Confidence. There's a way of losing derbies, and that's not a way to do it. So we did the same thing last year, and there was a real low after it where we struggled to pick up points for quite a while, but we seem to have dusted ourselves off a little bit better in this. I think the problem we've got, is there is a blueprint on how to beat us, but it's whether the teams can do that or not. Go on, Luke. I see you dying to ask a question there.
I just wanted to know your opinion. What's the difference between last season and this season? Why is it kind of working? Why it seems to be clicking? What's going on? Is it Dion Charles is just unbelievable goal scorer, and that's kind of your output? What's?
I think
what is it?
There's two things. It's a good question, actually. There's two things. I think, number one, we're a year further into the process. So we've made a couple of improvements across the team. The team are getting better at the message. Our younger players are stepping up more, like George Thomason, for example, forced his way into. We're a year further down the road in terms of, because when you're playing a system like we play, which is complex, difficult, it does take time for new signings to get used to it. So there is an element of that. The second, and probably less spoken reason about it, is the league is easier this year. So last year you had Ipswich, Plymouth, and Sheffield Wednesday all go up. All the three of them achieved 100, if not very close to 100 points. Something that I don't think we'll do this year, even though I think we'll go up. So the league is easier. In terms of what you would call big fish in the league, there's probably only us and Derby. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that the biggest teams go up. It doesn't work like that. But when you consider in previous season we've had Sheffield Wednesday, Sunderland's, these types of sides, you can look at the league and all of a sudden it doesn't look as bad as it used to. So I think there's two reasons.
I was leading on to my next point, but while we're doing a bit of a prediction special, trying to give us your season predictions for Bolton.
Top 2. I think we'll do it. Yeah, go on, Luke. Are you dying to predict?
You've guaranteed it to me, and that's why I've placed £100 bet on Bolton to go up. So all on you, Liam.
Well, I apologise to the listeners about Luke flaunting his word. I have asked him not to do that. But
it's directly, Liam. It sounds like you're directly involved in Bolton's promotional push. Scott, give us your thoughts.
Yeah, Bolton are my pick to run out as league winners. So I can see Bolton coming straight up and coming top of the pile.
Sweet. Well, that's also my bet. Not just because they're the home club, but I do think they look like the more settled side, and they look like they're playing like the biggest side in the league at the moment. Apart from obviously the Wigan match, which was, I think, a shock to everyone. I'm interested and got a keen eye on them.
To beat us, it's not just about bullying us, which Wigan did. You've got to be very good as well, which Wigan are. So they're both big, strong, and good.
Well, yeah, I think everyone had written Wigan off just immediately because of the points deduction and actually forgot about the team that they've got left.
Yeah, it's a good side. Very good side. They may get the playoffs. Maybe.
Right, well, that rounds that up nicely. So I give you all a bit of homework leading up to this episode. We're going to do a predictions special. Now that the transfer window's shut, now that everything's settled, the season can get going with a nice kick-starting international break. So we've all gone away and predicted what we've got lined up for the season. Champions, who makes up the Champions League spots, 6th and 7th, top goal scorer, manager sacked, so on, so on, so on. So Luke, I'm going to start with you, and we're going to go straight to the bottom 3. Now, can we all just... Is there anyone who's not got Luton and Sheffield United in their bottom 3? Is there anyone who's not? Speak now.
I
have not.
Interesting.
Right, and I'll jump in then. So I have got Luton, but then I've gone Burnley and Everton. And there's a reason, and I've done this twice. I did it when we set it a week ago, and I've done it today. And I've taken Sheffield United out today. And I did it after the Everton game, and there's a reason for it. The signings that they've made in that time since we did our thing in the league, they've signed two very important players into very important positions. So firstly, they've signed Gustavo Hamer. Now, I watch more Championship football than you guys probably, but he was unbelievable at Coventry. Someone I pointed out to you guys in the summer, him and Gyökeres, and I was like, them two.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
I was like, they're brilliant players. So Hamer, and he's already making a difference there. He's involved in everything in that game. And also Cameron Archer, who bagged goals last year, and I think can make a real difference. That it also brings the best out of McBurney, having someone to play off him. So I think they've got a system and they've got a chance. And I also think Burnley are in big trouble. I think they're being found out already. They've come up with we've seen it so many times. That arrogance, I'm going to play my own football. I'm not going to change to anybody.
Norwich.
But, yeah, so many do it, and they're already being found out. So that's why I went with them 3.
Luke, let's hear from you.
I went Wolves, Everton, Luton.
Wolves.
So Wolves. I just think. Well, I don't think Gary O'Neill can do it. To be honest, I just think the FFP kind of ruling. I think losing. What's his name to City? Nunes. I just you look at the team, right, it's not a great team, to be honest. Can't seem to be scoring. Can't score goals. Had the worst defensive stats last season. I just think. I think it's time for the Wolves to go down, to be honest. And then I suppose Everton. Yeah, what a dreadful club.
I'm worried for Everton if that happens to them. Scott, have you got the same as me, Luton, Sheffield United and Everton?
I have indeed. Great minds clearly think alike. I think just touching on Burnley, just very quickly, just going back to Liam's point, I think they're a bit unfortunate with the start that they've had. I think they've come up against 3 teams in the first 3 games who are more than likely going to make up some of the top 5, 6 in the league. So I think I take your point. I do think Kompany is going to be a bit arrogant and he'd be hesitant to play football that will get results in this league. But I think they're better overall. I think they've got enough quality to stay up. And I think that's where Luton and Sheffield are really going to struggle. And I think Everton, they've been towing the line for far too long. And I think that I think that their time's up.
Hopefully.
Well, yeah. That was what a lot of my point was as well for Everton. Going on to Sheffield United, so my bottom 3 is the same as Scott's. I did toy with putting Burnley in instead of Sheffield United, but I think Burnley will stick with Kompany a lot longer than they should. I think Burnley will stick with Kompany a lot longer than some of the other clubs will, and that will put them into a situation. However, I just think that they'll be a little bit better than the other 3 that go down. Just about, literally only need to win them games against them. And I can't see many of them picking up a lot of points elsewhere. I actually have Luton, I think, may go down as the worst Premier League side ever in terms of the overall point score. But I'm not seeing much up either for Sheffield United and Everton. Everton just look dire. They look like they're dead on their arse. And I worry for them if they go down, but That leads me nicely onto the first manager sacked, who I think, and I've gone with Paul Heckingbottom. Even though I've also gone with Sheffield United going down, it almost contradicts it because you'd like to think as soon as they get rid of the managers, they'll get an upturn in form. But I just think that Sheffield United will show their hand first, and I don't think it'll play it in the long run. Luke, who have you got for first manager sacked?
I've actually gone for Marco Silva at Fulham. I think they overachieved last season. I think they will do a lot worse with that team they currently got. I think that obviously keeping over Paulinho, which it was a done deal to Bayern, and then obviously it fell apart. I think that's a positive, but I just think because he overachieved last season, I think he'll be on the chop if they start moving down the league as the season progresses.
Liam?
Because selling Mitrovic is such a loss for them. That it's so critical to everything that they do. And obviously, yes, they signed Raul Jimenez, but he's not Mitrovic. And it's such a big miss. Selling a striker like that's getting 15 to 20 goals in the Premier League could be the difference between staying up and going down. So I think that's not a terrible shout, Luke. It isn't what I went for, though. I went with Dyche. And if I'm being completely honest, if I was Everton, I'd be thinking of doing it already. Because you look at the evidence that they've got between when Dyche was hired, February to now. Where's the evidence that he can keep them up? There is none.
Yeah.
So, what's the point? Why would you stick with him if that performance against Sheffield United from Everton? Then it's very hard to see how he can turn him around. So, yeah, I went with Dyche.
What have you got, Matt?
I also went with Sean Dyche. I feel as though the other two teams who have pegged to go down, Luton and Sheffield, they weren't equipped for the Premier League anyway. And I think they'll be in a similar situation to, I think when Norwich last went down, they just stuck with their manager. And it was like, okay, just because we got relegated, we're not going to fire you. We didn't expect you to do anything anyway. And I feel as though that's where they will be. And I think that, Sean Dyche isn't doing anything that, I think him and Burnley was a bit of a match made in heaven. It was lightning in a bottle. And I feel as though when you take that dynamic away, just don't think he fits them. I don't think he can get the players motivated. I don't feel like he's a particularly inspiring manager to play for. I've got Dyche as well because I think they're abysmal and think it's only going to get worse.
So interesting. So we're all gone for someone in our bottom three getting the manager out there and still going down. So a change of manager. I want to move on to the opposite end, and I want to let's start with the Europa League spots. So we'll start with 6th and 7th. Liam, who have you got making up the European spots?
Okay, so I was chewing on this for quite a while, 6th and 7th. And I also don't remember this being in the list pre-pod, but okay. 6th, so I'm going to think on my feet because I didn't have that in the list.
Well, we'll come back to. I'll come back to you if you want. I'll give you a minute, and I'll tell you what I've got.
Is this in the list?
It's in my list.
It's in the list.
You've changed the list.
Listen.
Anyway, right,
I've gone with Newcastle and Spurs, and I've changed that this weekend. Having seen enough of Chelsea, I've done the dastardly deed and gone with Spurs over Chelsea for making up the Europa League spots. And I just think anything like that is going to come too soon for Chelsea. It would be beneficial for them not to be there for a start, and I don't think they'll do it anyway. So in the long run, it's probably going to work out right. Newcastle, I think, will just miss out on the top 4 or 5 with this coefficient thing. It looks like we're going to get 5 Champions League spots this season. So that's going to be the way I've ended up. Scott, what have you got for your 6th, 7th?
6th and 7th, I have gone Aston Villa and Man United. I think it's probably. I mean, it's difficult when it comes to Chelsea because the start that we've made isn't consistent with what we saw in pre-season. It's a different system. We've gone with different personnel in different places, so we've kind of gone back on what looked like it was going to work. So unless that could change and we could sneak our way back in, but I don't think it's going to happen personally. I think we're too inexperienced, and I think that Aston Villa look an absolutely brilliant team. Unai Emery's got them playing really well. I think that some of their signings have really gone under the radar to how good they actually are, and I think that there are better teams than Man United who are playing better football with better systems in place. And I think they'll be good enough to be up there, but not good enough to outclass some of these other teams that are really well drilled. So I'm going for, I've actually gone Man United 7th and Villa in 6th.
So you've put United 7th.
Mm.
Can you explain that? Because it seems like, I know we're obviously...
Because of shit.
No, we're not shit. I think if you look at the past seasons, we've been in shitter times, but we've still kind of delivered at the end of the season. Why do you think this is going to be such a bad season for United?
I mean, I actually don't think this is a bad season for Man United, and I think this speaks to where Man United actually are. When you think of, I mean, you could if I've got Villa and Man United in those positions, you can probably think of, you could probably guess, in no particular order, the remaining 5 above. And I don't think you're any better than those 5 teams. And I feel that Aston Villa have got a more cohesive squad. I feel like they've got the buy. I think they all buy into the coach. And I think that Ten Hag has proven that he doesn't have the rest of the squad, because you've seen what's going on with Jadon Sancho this week. I actually do back Eric Ten Hag in this, to be honest. So just to preface that, I think that the player going out making statements and going against the coach, I think that's ridiculous. I think it's unprofessional. And if Sancho was playing well enough in training, he should be playing. But it goes to show he's not commanding that level of respect. So I think that there's a slight lack of cohesion. And I think we touched on it earlier, just to wrap up now, on Marcus Rashford, on this pegging of him, of this sort of, not pegging Marcus Rashford, that sounds awful. Maybe cut that bit. But Marcus Rashford, for me, is seen as the answer, where I think he's far from it. And I think you need somebody much, much better, much higher quality. And Højlund could be that guy. We don't know yet. We've not seen enough of him to say. But I think that there's too much reliance on a player who just can't produce what United need to go to that next level. So I think there's work to be done on that team. And that's why I think Villa will pip United to that place.
Well, good. Would you say, just something on that, would you say that, in your opinion, the United squad don't respect Ten Hag? Is that what you think?
Jadon Sancho clearly doesn't. And if he's a popular and influential person in the dressing room, who knows if he's got the ear of certain players who maybe, I say look up to him, he's only a kid, but he came in as a big star.
Big star.
It's hard to say. Certainly Jadon Sancho doesn't respect him, or otherwise he wouldn't have made that statement, or it would have been a private discussion. So there's clearly at least one chink in the armour, and that usually leads to more.
Very, very worrying, I'd say, for Man United.
Okay, so if we're talking about the Sancho situation, then he's on a lot of money. Could it be a tactic from Ten Hag to say, "Come on, Saudi, come get him"?
Maybe.
I doubt it personally. I feel as though you wouldn't get. It's hard for a player to go for money if he's not on the pitch. Doesn't really make any sense. You could get some performances from him, and if you still want him gone, you can maximise his value by playing him. I'm sure they'd love to get him off the wage bill because he's on stupid money and he's performed really, really poorly. This is why I do side with Ten Hag, because Sancho's not got the minerals, as some Chelsea fans say. He's not got the body of work, as there's a quote I heard today, to stand on this soapbox and say, I'm not being picked, I'm not this and that. He's not done anything for Man United. So I'm not so sure on that one. I think you'd probably, if that was a selling tactic, you'd be better off putting him on the pitch and then put some performances in.
Luke, that's a damning report. And I think it's a fair assessment from the outside looking in on United. Now, Liam, have you got anyone for 6 and before we round up the top 4, 5, and we give Luke a chance to answer some United critics, have you picked anyone for 6th and 7th?
Yeah, I was sweating on this because I'm having to count, make sure I've not missed anybody out. But I have gone with these two. So in 6th, I've got Brighton. I think the reasons for that one are pretty obvious. Impressive club. Another year into the process. De Zerbi, probably the second best manager in the league in most people's opinion, I'd say. So yeah, Brighton 6th. And I've gone with something different in 7th, but I couldn't really find a reason to leave them out. And that is West Ham. They've had 6 and 8 finishes before last season, and I think everyone's been very quick to write them off, but I think they've invested that Declan Rice money very well, particularly with James Ward-Prowse on a team that scores goals from set pieces before they had James Ward-Prowse. So I think they are in line for a very good season.
I agree with you. I don't think that they'll make it that high, but I do agree with you on every point that you've said there. For Luke, do you want to add there?
Oh, I was just going to give my positions before we move on to top 4.
Sorry, go on.
I've gone Villa 7th, and I've gone Brighton 6.
Yeah. I mean, it's all sort of fairly self-explanatory.
Can I just say, before we move on, with regarding Villa,
Yeah.
I think there's something still missing from Villa. And I think they'll struggle balancing Europe with it a little bit. I know others that we've mentioned are in Europe, but I just think with the way they've started the season, them and Newcastle, that there's something missing for both of them. I think they'll still have a good season, but I don't think they'll quite hit the straps like they did at the back end towards last season. That's why I didn't.
Villa battered Newcastle.
Is that the game they lost 5-1 in?
Yeah.
Other way around.
Newcastle battered Villa.
Yeah.
Did they? All right.
Yeah.
Might need to change my predictions then.
They've not won a game since.
I just think, well, on the European aspect, obviously, Unai Emery, you can't doubt his prowess in the European competition. So I don't know.
Are you predicting a Europa Conference League win now, Luke, for Aston Villa? They could
Possibly.
win it. Why not?
Possibly.
It sounds like something Emery could win in his sleep as long as he's not managing Arsenal. It doesn't really matter about his European competitions. He seems to do them for the laugh. Liam, I'm going to go back to you now, mate, for the top 4, not including the... In fact, let's start with your champions and the whatever makes up your top 4 or 5.
Build up from 5th to the top. Do it that way.
Let's go from 5th to 1st.
Right. So in 5th, I've got Man United. I think there's a lot missing, but I think there's a lot of strong teams this year. I don't think you'll miss out. Is the Champions League top 5 this year, or is it that next year?
No. So the top 5 this year will qualify for the next year's Champions League. Yeah.
Okay. Well then, they'll get in then. On what I'm saying, I don't think that's not That's not me writing them off with that. I just think there's quite a few stronger teams this year than Man United, where they currently are. So they're 5th. 4th, I've gone Spurs. I think Postecoglou's already got a grip of them. I think they're going to be the surprise package for the full season, to be completely honest. It's a shame that they're out the Carabao Cup already, because I would have probably predicted them to win that. But yeah, I've gone Spurs in 4th. In 3rd, I've gone Liverpool. Keeping Mo Salah is critical to that. They're going to be
a couple of days to find out.
Yeah, they're going to be tested on that in the next 48 hours or so. So if they sell Salah, then that's out the window. But with him there, and Szoboszlai seems to be finding his rhythm a little bit. I think they're starting to finally include Curtis Jones in the team as well, who's a brilliant player for me. Then, yeah, I think Liverpool in 3rd. Top 2, I don't think there's going to be any surprises here. 2nd, I've gone Arsenal. I think they're the 2nd best team in the league.
That's fair.
Other times they would be the best team, but it isn't other times. And champions, I have gone for Manchester City, because they were going to win the league every year for the rest of our lives.
Scott, you tell me yours, mate. Any outliers that have made it in?
Not particularly, no. This top 7 paid me to put together because one particular club isn't in it. But I had no choice. I have to go with what's in front of my eyes. So in 5th place, I have Brighton. Echoing what we said before, De Zerbi is probably, I'd put him as the 3rd best. I think Jurgen Klopp's still just behind Pep. You look at his body of work, but De Zerbi, anyone who's looked at him, look what he did in Italy as well. He's going to take over from Pep, in my opinion. When Pep leaves, I think De Zerbi's the next guy to take over from Guardiola. I think he's excellent. And you look at Brighton, who continue to sell all of their best players. They've taken the Southampton model, yeah. Rather than get relegated, they seem to just get better. And that's down to the systems that they play under. So I've got Brighton to make 5th. I've put Spurs in 4th because I feel like similar to Brighton, but they've got a bit more quality. James Maddison in there. I think that selling Harry Kane is actually going to be a bit of a blessing in disguise. It's not just the Harry Kane show anymore. So I think that they're going to work better as a cohesive team. And Postecoglou, I think, could be a sleeper for manager of the season, depending on how things go. 3rd place, I've got Arsenal, because I think that they've bought half extremely well, half ridiculously badly. I think their transfer window has been a very mixed bag, and we'll get onto that later.
Which half? Which half do you think it is? I can guess. I think I know which one it's going to be.
You know exactly who's on which half of that. There's a certain £60 million signing who I think is. Well, again, we'll get to that. That comes up later. We'll put it that
Martin
way.
agrees anyway. He's just pretending he doesn't, but he definitely agrees.
He's doing what we did for 3 years. So it's like the stages of grief. Go through all those things. I've done them all with this particular man, but we'll get to that. But I think Arsenal are very good. But one thing I don't think they'll do as much as score more goals than Liverpool, and that's why I put Liverpool as second. I think for all Liverpool's faults, I think the midfield is weak as piss, but they have a lot of goals across that team. And again, contingent on Mo Salah staying. But even if he does, Luis Diaz has a lot of goals. Darwin Núñez could have a lot of goals. I'll preface that with a could. And Diogo Jota, when he's fit, he's excellent as well. So I think Liverpool.
Just love watching Darwin Núñez.
He is the Timo Werner of Liverpool, but taller and has nicer hair. But yeah, I think he could be very good. He's got all the tools, but we'll see. So I think Liverpool are second, and then naturally Man City are going to win because until Pep leaves, the Premier League is his bitch, and it always will be. And there's nothing any of us can do about it. So yeah, it is what it is. City are going to win again, and it's really depressing. But it is what it is. They're the best team, so they're going to win it. So yeah, that's my top five. Luke, what do you say, mate? What's yours?
So in at number 5, I've gone for the Gunners.
You rat. that was. Oh my god. Go on.
Luke, why?
Why? Please enlighten us.
I think I think the pressure is a lot this season for Arsenal. Just basing off last season, I think they've set too of a higher standard to basically say we're going to push City. I think I agree with both Scott and Liam in regards to which half is weak for Arsenal. I just think, just going off the last 2 seasons, and I keep mentioning it, how they've bottled it. I think I just think this season could be a proper meltdown halfway through at Christmas time when Arteta loses the plot.
Here's a question for you on Arsenal. Do you think that the fans played a part in the fact that they threw away the title last year? Do you think it was because I sense the fear from Arsenal fans about.
What's your thing with fans? Fans have barely anything to do with it. Why are they controlling everything now?
It was a question for Luke Martin. Luke, what do you think?
Honestly, God.
I think the fan base is toxic at Arsenal, as we both are aware.
Wow.
I think one slip up and there'll be Arteta out signs everywhere.
Bed sheets are out.
Do you agree, Martin?
Martin's still outside the ground.
No, let's get on.
Robbie.
Let's go.
His time is up.
He's got to go. No. Luke, just get on with the rest of this ridiculous prediction and then we can move on to some actual common sense.
On the point of common sense, I was kind of held to my top 4 what I predicted 3 weeks ago.
Who held you?
Mr. O'Meara. No. O'Meara promised me Bolton guarantees, so I thought I'd just put something out there. So I've gone for Chelsea 4th. I've gone for City 3rd. I've gone for United 2nd. And I've gone for Liverpool title winners.
Why? Why have it? You don't need to go into how ridiculous that sounds, but give us your reasoning for Liverpool getting top spot.
I think if Haaland gets injured, I think they're going to be in a big trouble, City. I think De Bruyne injuries could play a big factor this season as well. So I think losing them 2 would be massively a problem. Scott?
Yeah, just to interject there, I think you're right to a degree. If Haaland does go, they used to have Riyad Mahrez and Kevin De Bruyne who can chip goals in. I'm not sure that the players they've replaced them with have the same output in them, perhaps. So I think there's definitely an argument to say that if Haaland does get injured, there is Julian Alvarez as well, who is excellent. But does he put up Haaland numbers? Does he put up title-winning numbers? Remains to be seen. But yeah, I think there's an argument to say that could be a big problem for them.
I think as well, Scott, on that, you obviously paid 40 million for the guaranteed starter Cole Palmer as well, so they haven't even got him to step in either, have they? So maybe Luke is onto something. Go on, Luke.
I think a lot of this, you've mentioned him before in other podcasts, Liam, Phil Foden. I don't. I know City fans rave about him, but he needs to step up massively this season. I think a lot especially with the De Bruyne injury. I think he is kind of need to be a star talisman for the team. Otherwise, this production.
Are you joining me on the Phil Foden is a fraud bandwagon? There's loads of room at the moment. There's room. I've been on this one myself.
Phil Foden.
I wouldn't call him a fraud, but he needs to deliver this season. This has to be a standout season for Foden.
Yeah, he's got to go from being a bit of a role player to the main man, and I think it's the big shoes to fill and big numbers to put up. So I do rate Foden. I think he gets a little bit too much hype for me. I think he's very good, but he's got to go from bench player, 15 starts a season, to Kevin De Bruyne's replacement, and that's a big gap. So I'm not sure he can do it.
Go on, mine.
Well, Luke, sorry, did you want to add something else before I give you mine?
Yeah.
You didn't tell me why Liverpool are going to win the league.
I think the attacking force for Liverpool's great, and Klopp's a great manager, and that's essentially the only reason. Just that attacking force and Klopp.
All right. Well, there you have it. Let's go with mine, and I've gone with the top 5. Fifth, I've got Aston Villa for every reason we said before. Right? You made a good point about them maybe it being too much, but it was a toss-up between Villa and Newcastle, and I just went with them. I've gone 4th, Liverpool. I think there'll be a big gap between Liverpool and the rest further down, between Villa, Newcastle and Spurs, and I think Liverpool will be a lot closer to the rest of this pack. But I still feel like, as Scott mentioned, I feel like their midfield is weak. It's new. They do have some good players. Szoboszlai looks like he's settling in okay, but it's a long season, so I'll wait and see on that one. Third, I have Man United. I think they have recruited okay, and I wait to see how the rest of the season goes. But I think that they'll be all right in the long run. They seem to have grown as the season went on last season, so that's why I've got them this high. Can't believe it. I was disrespected with Luke's predictions, but I've managed to crowbar Man United into the top 3. Second, I've gone City, obviously, because they're going to get pipped by Arsenal. I've gone with us for the Champions. I think it's our next step under Arteta, and I just feel like this is. I can't not back him. If we're going to be in a tight race. Everyone's putting us up there. Most pundits, not half of this podcast, but most pundits are putting us right up there as first or second. And I've got to back them. I've got to think that we're going to get it done. I feel like we might have a little bit of a season like City had last season, where we haven't started great. I mean, we're on 10 points, but we haven't started great in terms of performances. And I feel like it will pick up as the season goes on, as Arteta's plans and tactics get implemented for the rest of the team. So that's where I'm sitting with that, and we're going to win the league, and everyone can laugh all the way to the bank. I want to move, so that takes me nicely on to the signings. And Luke, I'm going to come to you first. Tell me who is the best signing made this summer.
I hate to say it, Rice by you, man.
Declan Rice. I nearly went with Rice, but the price tag took that away, because I think it's not like a bargain. It was a sort of fair market valuation of a great midfielder in that position at the moment.
I've chosen because it's the future aspect as well. I could see him being Arsenal captain. He'd being the main man for a number of years. I think it's a great kind of added member of the squad. I think he if you're going to challenge, which I don't think you will, but I think he'll be the catalyst to get this title run going.
Scott, who've you gone with best sign?
I flip-flopped a couple of times on this. I'm going to have to go with James Maddison. There's other people who are in the running. Moussa Diaby at Villa is one that I could look at. Had it not been for injury, I think Christopher Nkunku would have been my pick. I think for the money that we paid, it would have been. He's going to look like an absolute bargain for the numbers he's going to put up. I think we paid 54 million for him, and I think he's excellent. But I can't look past James Maddison for the money that Spurs got him for and the difference that he's going to make to them. I think he's going to be kind of their new centerpiece. And I think for the business and for the money that some people were going for this year, I don't think I can look past Maddison. So he would be my pick. Liam, what about you, mate?
Exactly the same. James Maddison. It's hard to look past a player that completely changes how a team plays and what they can potentially achieve as a team. And Maddison, to an extent like Rice has, he's already, you can see, a leader of that team. He's the man that when they pick the ball, they're looking for straight away. And I think he's going to be a big reason why they have a really good season.
Liam, is Maddison going to benefit from Kane not being there, do you think?
I think they all will, as well as Kane. That should have happened years ago for everyone. I think they'll all benefit. You get a new identity, you can move on. There's plenty of teams that have lost the best player and got better. Remember Liverpool with Coutinho? That was a big one for them. There's plenty of times where that's happened. I can only think of Coutinho right now, but there's loads of examples if other people have thought of them. But yeah,
I'll tell you that. Definitely wasn't Eden Hazard. You've done nothing but decline since Eden Hazard left.
Including Eden Hazard himself, isn't he? Is he retired? Did he retire?
I think he wants to. He's had apparently he's had quite a few offers, but I don't think they're clearly not from Europe's elite. And I don't think he's that kind of player I don't think he's that bothered. I think he's one of those, like, he's really good, but doesn't really give a shit about football. So he's just not that fussed about carrying his career on. So I think he's going to call it quits.
Yeah, Maddison. Martin, what did you go for?
I've gone with, and I was waiting until the last minute to submit this, but I've gone with Amrabat for United. I know it's a loan deal at the moment. I just rate him that highly. And I've only seen bits of him for Fiorentina, and then what we've seen in the World Cup and anything he's done with Morocco. I just think he will make a massive difference to Man United's midfield. I think he'll be a signing who makes arguably one of the most differences of all the new signings who are going to start appearing. He's got great energy. He's a leader. And I really rate him. He doesn't look like he's afraid of anyone. I
agree on Amrabat, but I do think he's also going to give Man United another problem, because I think in United's now best team, Samiro and Amrabat will likely play together. And then you've got the Fernandes or Mount issue. And I think that you have to pick Bruno Fernandes because he's better and he's the captain. But then what do you do with your 60 million quid signing? I think it, although it solves one problem, because the United midfield is where you've been getting run over and it's looked too unbalanced. And while this fixes it, it then causes another issue.
Well, this leads me perfectly and nicely onto the worst signing of the season. Now, regardless of how you three have spelt Kai Havertz in all you three of your predictions, I've gone with Mason Mount for this reason. I don't see where he fits into Man United's best team, and I feel like it's a giant gamble on someone who didn't perform last season, arguably down tools, but he just doesn't see. I don't see where he fits for Man United. I don't know if it's a media show of peace. I don't even know. Liam, what's the words that I'm looking for here? A show of wealth or something. I don't friggin' know.
It's a good signing, so I just completely disagree. But
well, that's fine. But Luke, am I wrong here?
Again, to my point before, it's a reactive signing again. It's not forward thinking. It's just, who's in the market? He'll do. It's just really, really piss poor, to be honest.
Yeah, I think I can see when it became clear that Mount wasn't staying with us, I thought Liverpool would have been perfect place for him. He was like the natural, and I've got my own thoughts on Jordan Henderson, the natural Jordan Henderson replacement. He's got an engine. He's got a good range of passing. He's not amazing at one thing in particular, but he can be very good at a lot of things. So, yeah, I thought it was an earmark for Liverpool when I heard he was going to United. I wondered why and where. He's from a commercial perspective, he'll sell a lot of shirts and he'll be the face of the club. He'll be on all the posters like he was for us. And maybe that's where they're looking. Crazy decision to spend that much money on him. But yeah, I think it is. I think United maybe saw an opportunity to bring him in. I don't think he makes United much better, as much as I did really Mason Mount.
Yeah, while I'm not sitting here saying Mason Mount is going to be the worst player. I feel like it's the worst signing because of the lack of plan behind it. Liam, do you want to kick off the Kai Havertz bashing?
Well, it turns out I did go with Kai Havertz, and I'll tell you the truth, right? I sat there and thought, wrote down Kai Havertz straight away, and I was trying to convince myself to not say Kai Havertz. What I realised is that I'd just be saying someone else for the sake of it, because it's clearly a weird signing. It's weird. It completely makes no sense. I tried to reason with it with this idea of it's taking the pressure off Martin Odegaard. But then he doesn't do Martin Odegaard's job. I'm thinking maybe he's a rotate for a second striker. But Arsenal like them to play on the shoulder and to go in behind, which is not what Kai Havertz does. I can't see a single reason why Arsenal would want him in the team. Everything that you just said about Mount is twice the reason with Kai Havertz. Like,
I don't disagree, and I understand everyone's reasoning because I don't even know if Kai Havertz knows what Kai Havertz is. The only grace I'm giving him is that I believe Arteta has a plan, and they all have some good grace in my books at the moment and the credit. While that may be dwindling every match we go on,
just blindly following leaders is how atrocities happen. If it's a bad decision, it's a bad decision. So no, I don't know, Scott. You're definitely going to agree with me on this one, aren't you?
I am, yeah. So the Silky German, I've probably watched more Kai Havertz than all you guys have had him at Chelsea for 3 years, and the frustrations that I'm sure, Martin, you felt seeing the missed chances, the shots going wide, the touches misplaced. There's so much to his game that isn't there, and I don't even think it's a positional. I think it's a Premier League problem for Kai Havertz. I think the quality's there. I think you and I have spoken, Martin, privately about Kai Havertz and the potential that he's got. And you saw that when it was clear that he was leaving Leverkusen, every club wanted him, and we somehow convinced him to join us. Considering at the time we weren't exactly pulling up trees either. And yeah, for a team who then want to push on and allegedly challenge Man City, this is not the guy that you bring in. He doesn't bring goals. He doesn't bring assists. He's not an amazing passer. I don't really know what the thinking is here. So yeah, I'm very similar to Liam. I just don't know what problem he solves. And I think he makes more. 60 million quid, massive wages for a guy who doesn't do anything that well and just unbalances the team. Very weird.
Do you think he was brought in for this position he's playing now, or was he brought in to be kind of Jesus replicable, or to work with Jesus, or is that? Do you think that's Arteta's plan to get it, play him on the left hand side?
I couldn't tell you. No one knows right now. It looks like he's settling into Xhaka's position. I think from reading between the lines of what Arteta has said leading up to everything, he wants to overload the attack with extra defenders, people inverting left, right and centre, and to bring in an attacking force like Kai Havertz. I use the term force in very loosely. I don't really know yet. I've just got to give it time. I'm hoping that Arteta's seen something that we don't. Luke, is there anything else you want to bash Kai Havertz with? Have you gone with Kai Havertz as well?
No, I've not gone Kai Havertz. I've just gone with a player I just don't rate at all, Alex Iwobi. I think that is horrendous.
I agree. Absolutely. I agree.
Where's he gone? I didn't even know he moved.
Full of like 20 odd million in it.
25 million pound for Iwobi.
He's still not a worse signing than Kai. I'm sorry. I'm not moving.
Like, I agree. I've changed. I've honestly, he's such a bad player.
Yeah, just because. What my point before was with Marco Silva being, I think, going to be the manager to be sacked. I think just what is he thinking signing him? He brings nothing, especially coming from Everton as well. It just when I saw that, I was thinking, wow, 25 million for Iwobi, terrible.
We got 30 million for him. That was class. I can't believe that. It's one of the worst players I've ever seen in Arsenal shirt.
Email coming in for Everton offer. Go and get Bill. Have you seen this?
Get him. Get in there. Are we being hacked? Or is this a scam? So, They're all fair comments, I think. Before we round it up, in fact, let's just round up. Top goal scorer. Have we got a full house for Erling Haaland? Is there anyone who's gone left field here?
I was going to go Darwin Núñez, but I can't. Haaland's
At this
been the top
point.
goal scorer. Yeah.
Liam?
I think it'll be Erling Haaland.
How did you come to that conclusion? The fact that he's almost on 15 goals already or something? I don't know why he's already got a hat-trick and...
He's just ruined everything, hasn't he? Like, Fantasy League is just... It's just like, aside from Haaland, what did everyone get?
Yeah, if you've not got Haaland captain, you're not doing now, are you?
40 points. 40 points.
Scott, full house?
Yeah, full house. On the fantasy football point, he's like the Aguero. He's the new Aguero for fantasy football. Even if he's only fit for 20 games, Aguero was disgusting. And yeah, Haaland, he's got 6 goals already. It's 4 games in. It's going to be another Android season for him. So yeah, got to be Haaland. No one else is even close.
So I want to move on to... Let's round it up with the cup winners, the FA Cup and League Cup winners. I'll tell you who I've gone with first, and then we'll pass it round. Liam is looking at me in disgust like he hasn't been prompted this as well. He's not.
Sorry.
He has. He's wrong, isn't he?
These were definitely on the list of things to predict. 100%.
100%.
Oh, yeah, well, of course, Luke, you would. Yeah.
Thank you. League Cup winners, I've gone Newcastle, and FA Cup winners, I've gone Liverpool. I think they'll both put themselves in with a good shout of winning it and focus on it towards the end of the season. Go on, Liam.
I think the League Cup winners will be Man City. And I think the FA Cup winners will be Arsenal. Am I supposed to predict another thing? Have I forgotten? Is there another domestic trophy I've forgotten about?
So I've done the same as Liam. I think Arsenal are going to win the FA Cup and City are going to win the League Cup. I put Arsenal to win the FA Cup just because I think that's the only trophy they could probably win this season.
Disgusting.
They'll be out of the league. They'll just be put it all into the cup.
It's slanderous. Luke, Scott, finish it up. What have you got?
Oh, God. We've gone Arsenal for the League Cup. I wanted to put Chelsea in there, but we've got Brighton the next round, so we're not going to win that. So that's going to be our League Cup journey over. I've actually gone because could not have Chelsea not appear on this list. And for no other reason than that Chelsea are going to win the FA Cup because I have to back us in some way. And I've already backed us to finish fucking 8th on this podcast, and that's shameful in and of itself. So we're going to win the FA Cup as a consolation.
You know.
That's listen, these are all fair guesses. We're only predicting. We don't know anything at the moment. Boys, thank you very much for giving us them predictions. I think we need a wager. I think we need something. Whoever gets the most of these right, there needs to be either a collective prize or some sort of forfeit for the one who gets worst. So I'd be interested to hear what people want to reply to in the comments following this episode. Please let us know what you think a fair prize would be for the winner, whether it's a joint one or we all have to pitch in. Luke, have you got an idea?
For a forfeit, I think on your Twitter handle, you got to change to you support and you love the team of the People's Vote.
3 followers.
Oh, what surprise Liam doesn't want to do that.
While we're here, Luke, what is your Twitter handle?
Grandmaster Sexy Luke.
At Luke Foley FFP. Please get involved with at Luke Foley FFP. Thank you all very much for joining in, lads. We'll take them on board. I want to thank everyone again for listening. I really appreciate it. Please do like and subscribe and follow and share and do all that good stuff. Costs you nothing, but it means the world to all of us, and it really does help promote us and keep us doing something that we're all really enjoying at the moment. You can find all our information at fixingfootballpodcast.com. You can find links to all our websites there. We moved up a little bit in fantasy football as a group, but I did not do well at all. I think I had my worst personal week ever. So, guys, thanks once again, Scott. Cheers for joining us again, mate. We'll get you back soon. And boys, appreciate it. Catch up with you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers, lads.